I'm making this video about Aidan Stock. He is an abuser. I would say that he is my abuser, but that is not true. For a long time, I deluded myself and told myself that it was true because I hoped it was true. I hoped that I was a special case, as weird as it is to say that. I hoped that after we had our relationship that maybe he changed and he treated his next girlfriend better. But that's not true. So he's just an abuser. That's who he is, that's what he does, and that's what he always will be. I was in a relationship with Aidan Stock from October of 2015 to March of 2018. We started dating my senior year of high school, and I ended our relationship my sophomore year of college after we had lived together for like half a year. Yikes. At the time we started our relationship, he didn't abuse me. He didn't abuse me for about half a year. And at that point, I just had no idea what hell my life was about to become. He had violent outbursts, of course, at high school, during his theater shows, even when we were just having an argument. But, you know, I blamed that all on his adolescence, because sometimes teenage boys are just like that. We can thank toxic masculinity for that, but he continues to do so up until this very day. It wasn't just him being a teenager, and it wasn't just some violent outbursts where he would bang his fist on a wall. It got much, much worse than that. On May 26th of 2016, he abused me for the first time. It was right before his graduation party. I honestly don't remember what we were arguing about, but that happened. Just as a side note, it's really hard to remember exactly everything because for the safety of my own mental health, I've blocked it out. That's really a common thing that people with PTSD do. So it's kind of hard, but I'm trying to return to those moments to tell you the truth of what happened. He started hitting me, throwing me around his room. I remember being curled up in the fetal position just on the floor, and I started having an anxiety attack, and he started mocking me. He was like, "Oh, what, you're gonna have an anxiety attack? You're gonna have an anxiety attack?" And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? And I remember he strangled me a little bit. And it was terrifying. I mean, to say it was shocking is a complete understatement. But honestly, the word to describe being abused just doesn't exist. I can't describe the way I felt. So on that night, I entered what's called the cycle of abuse. And I'd like to take a moment to describe to everyone what the cycle of abuse is, because many people, I'm sure, who have never been abused cannot understand why someone would stay in a relationship where they are experiencing abuse. So it starts with the incident, violent incident. The abuser does what they do, and they beat their partner. Sometimes it's a one-off thing, but for me, it was usually an escalation thing. You know, it would start with like one hit, and I would not give in, or I guess, like, you know, lay down and show my belly. So it would usually continue and escalate from there and get worse, like just punching, slapping, strangulation. And that can last for hours and hours. After that is when the abuser apologizes. This is the next stage in the cycle of abuse. And the thing that I experienced, and it might be a very common thing, is that when you're being beaten like that, you feel so alone and scared and helpless. And then the abuser just suddenly starts showing you love and affection and remorse. And basically for the past few hours, all you've wanted was to stop being beaten. And then they do. And they give you comfort. And it's like being in the desert for like 2 weeks and then having somebody put a little drop of water on your tongue, and it feels like the most amazing thing you've ever experienced. It's awful. It's awful. It's really fucked up. But that's emotional manipulation. They apologize. Aidan apologized. He would swear that it would never happen again, and would swear that he would also go get help, therapy or something. And of course, that was not true. But in that moment, you are so weak and empty, powerless because of their actions. And that's what they wanted. And so you acquiesce and you want it to be true. You want it to not happen again. So it's very easy to comfort yourself in that way and make yourself believe that what they're saying is sincere, but it's not. The next stage is called the honeymoon phase. And that's when everything is fine and love is freely given. It's basically like putting a Band-Aid on a huge gaping wound. That's just gushing blood. But it feels good at the moment, you know? It feels a little bit better. And it feels like life is gonna go on and be perfect again. But during this time is the next step in the cycle, which is called rising tension. And that's where the abuser just keeps filling up with angst and anger. I can't really describe what an abuser feels during that time because I would not know, but basically their emotions get bottled up until they erupt again, and another violent session of abuse occurs, and the cycle starts all over. So that's the cycle of abuse. It employs emotional manipulation, and that is one reason that a person will stay in a abusive relationship. Hopefully that makes sense to those of you who were unaware, and that is what Aidan did. He was very, very good at it. It was horrible. Another tool of manipulation that he would use was way more complex, and I really did not comprehend the minutia of what he was doing until months after I ended our relationship. We can all agree that abuse in a relationship is intolerable. I don't think that the victim would be able to stand it. Obviously, the cycle of abuse helps to keep them trapped in that space. But another thing that Aidan would do is hurt himself. And in this way, he made himself the victim in the situation. So I'll set the scene for you. After enduring sometimes hours of abuse, and if I still haven't given in and begged him to stop, then he would start hurting himself. And he would smash his hand against his head, or hold a lighter to his arm, or a butcher knife to his wrist. One time he even put his head through the wall of our hallway. He would do these things, and all the while he would complain and whine about how his brain is broken, and he would make it seem like he hated himself for committing these atrocities against me. And he would just be so angry at himself, and that's why he was hurting himself, because he was mad at himself for being who he was. He had a lot of reasons for this. He would randomly, if we were arguing about something completely different, and then, he would abuse me about it, and then he would just start getting angry at himself and be like, oh, it's because my dad left me. It's because my dad didn't love me. Or, oh, I got so many concussions when I played football in high school that my brain is broken and I hate myself for it. And he would he would continue to hurt himself and then force me, the person who he had just beaten, covered in bruises and fucking blood, to save him. To keep him from hurting himself. Because the thing is that I loved him. Through his emotional manipulation, I loved him, and I'm a good person. I have empathy, unlike him, because he is a narcissist. I don't want to see him get hurt. I don't want to see him hurt himself. It killed me. And so obviously, I would be fucking pinned in this position where I had to pity him and keep him from hurting himself. I would wrap my arms, my whole body around him to keep him from thrashing around on the floor. And then he would just start crying and be so upset about the actions that he had just committed. And the rest. I mean, he would apologize and blah, blah, blah. So that was really, really shitty. Because the whole time, he pretended that he had no control over his actions and that he could not help himself from beating me. But the truth is that he had full control the entire time of the entire situation. He was in full control of me. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he knew exactly how I'd react. He never loses control. His violence is not an expression of his loss of control. His violence and abuse is an expression of how much control he has and how much he loves power. He loves to hold power in his relationship. I did not see it. until months and months after it was over. I had a lot of people, friends and family, and my therapist who helped me realize that it was not, he was not a victim. He was not this poor little child who was broken. I mean, in my opinion, he is broken, but in my opinion, he also likes it that way. I'd like to bring up one more point to show everyone why it's so hard to leave an abusive relationship. Let me get this perfectly clear. I tried to leave. I tried to leave more times than I can fucking count. It's not that I didn't want to leave. It's not that I did not try to leave. He would not let me. If I tried to leave, he would try to kill me. Or he would pretend and threaten to kill himself. You cannot easily leave an abusive relationship. You can't just break up with the person like you can in a normal relationship. He wouldn't allow it to happen. His kink is control. All he wants is to have power over the other person. He nearly killed me. But the thing is that he didn't want me to ever actually die. He wanted to get close enough to scare me, close enough to horrify me. But he never ever wanted me to actually be dead, because then the game is over. He wants power, and if he killed me, there wouldn't be anyone to have power over. His abuse didn't seem to me to lead up to the goal of killing me. But I'll never really know, thankfully. I'll never really truly know if that was his goal or not, because I got out. I was extremely lucky. Some people were worse off than I was. I don't know if I can speak on the relationship that he had after me, but if I may try to do so, he started dating a very fragile person, like I was. I was also extremely fragile and innocent and naive when we started dating. And she unfortunately was caught in the same hole, this fucking black hole, for 2 years, just like I was. Of course, at this point in time, I didn't know if he abused her or not. I hoped that he didn't. A part of me knew that he did, but the part that is stupid and wishful hoped that he didn't. And it was really the only way that I think I'd be able to sleep at night. But the thing is that everything changed when I made my Twitter thread a couple days ago. The reason that I made that was because I found out that he has recently started up a relationship with a high schooler. And I know that usually an age difference like that wouldn't matter, but in this case, it 100% does. He is a predator. he is choosing this young person on purpose so that he can control them and they will be easier to manipulate. So when I found that out, I got really angry. It's been about 2 years since our relationship ended, and I've moved on, I've grown, but when I found out about this, I knew that I could not stay silent. So I thought, try to make people more aware. I've always been pretty open about it and my experience, but I never had the desire to go to such a scale until now. Honestly, I just expected it to get like a few retweets, spread awareness of who he is, and hopefully spare some women from experiencing the thing that I and other women have. But then, a few hours later, his ex-girlfriend, who dated him after me for around a period of 2 years, she texted me and confirmed that the way he treated me was the exact same way that he treated her. And we talked about it. I had never talked to her before, and since I didn't know if that was still continuing, I didn't know if it was my right. But it absolutely broke my heart when she told me that he treated her the same way. It's like looking into a mirror. A mirror that you don't want to see. Because I did not like what I saw in the mirror when I was in that situation. And seeing her at the point that I was at, it was really hard. I was deeply, saddened is too tame of a word, but even more so, I was really, really, really angry. Partly, I was mad at myself because I feel this bit of responsibility. Since I know who he is and I know what he's capable of, I feel this little responsibility, and I feel like I should have done something. I should have done more for her to keep her from experiencing the same thing that I did. But mostly I am mad at him. Mostly I'm angry at the person that he is and the fact that he exists at all. And the fact that he's allowed to continue going about his life freely, walking through women's lives and just fucking tearing destruction the whole time. And the thing is, what he wants is for me and all the other women to live in fear in order to stay silent. Because that is what enables him to continue doing what he does. And now, he's taken this 18-year-old high schooler, and she has no idea what's gonna happen. And I've been there. And you don't want to believe that it's true. It's unfathomable that somebody who you love and who allegedly loves you would do that. It's so hard to imagine. And you don't want to. But it's the truth. And honestly, I will die before I let that happen to any other woman. Ever since his ex-girlfriend told me that it wasn't just me. It's who he is, and he will never stop. It's been all I can think about. Every hour of every day, I'm just consumed with, what can I do? What can I do to stop this? What can I do to get this teenager out of this relationship? What can I do to make sure that Aidan can never do this again? And I'm committed to finding the answers to those questions. I'm not gonna stop. I feel like a fire has been lit under my ass. And I told my partner that I feel like a bottle of soda that's been shaken up with the cap still on, and I'm just ready to explode. Aidan wants me to be silent. He wants every girl that he has ever wronged to be silent. But he made a huge fucking mistake. He is so ignorant of how strong I became after the experiences that I went through. And Aidan, I know you're watching this, you fucking narcissist. So I'm saying this straight to you. I know you crave attention, which is why you beat me on my 20th birthday. And I know that this may not be the type you want. It's definitely not Broadway stardom. But I mean, hey, you work at the Woodlands Mall as a valet. But I'm giving you all the attention that you will ever deserve. And I couldn't defend myself back when you were beating me. But now, I'm ready to fight. And I'm gonna keep fighting you forever. For those of you who may question the validity of my experience, I honestly don't know what to say to you. If after all this you still don't believe me, I don't know what I could do to show you that I'm telling the truth. I remember being told at the start of my relationship with Aidan that he had raped someone. And he was able to convince me that all of the women who had banded together and reported him to the principal for that incident were just angry, and that, I mean, that the main reason was he had received nudes from them and then dumped them, so they were mad about it. Well, now knowing that he actually did rape his ex-girlfriend and perform non-consensual sexual acts with me multiple times. I can't say anything more than that I feel like a fucking idiot. The point is, I made the mistake of not believing women once. And I paid a very hefty price for it. And I swear to God, I will never, ever make that mistake again. I know this video has been probably pretty rambly and long-winded and maybe even uninteresting to you, but please know that domestic violence is an extremely hard thing to talk about. For most women, it is the most terrifying and life-altering thing that they will ever experience. It's like a knife that has been plunged into your heart. And so instead of bleeding out, you just suck it in and you hold it there. And I've been holding it for years. And I've gotten comfortable with the feeling. But now it is so, so uncomfortable to me. And I'm about to project it right into Aidan. I'm not gonna let society forget what you did, ever. You can't do this to people and ruin their lives and give them lasting trauma and terrifying memories and low self-esteem and trust issues and just walk away and start it all over again. I've got your consequences, and I am so ready, along with actually a bunch of other people who really don't like the way you've acted. I'm so ready to serve you a little bit of justice. All in all, if I have one message to give from this video, it's that if you meet Aidan Stock, who, by the way, lives in the Woodlands, Texas, run. That's it.